In or out, now that David Cameron has secured European reform he is happy with, the British Prime Minister has 4 months to sell it to his domestic audience and chiefly to his own party. Conservatives are deeply divided on whether Britain should stay in the Union or not. Judgment Day is June 23rd with an in-out referendum. With us this evening to discuss this, Alexis Poulain, who's on set with us. You're director of Euractiv France, which is an online media platform. You cover mostly a lot of politics and business news, all European affairs, though, and that makes you a very keen European affairs observer. Thanks for being with us. From Edinburgh, live with us this evening is David Coburn, British MEP for Europe of Freedom and Direct Democracy, EFD. You're also a member of the British UKIP party, Eurosceptic party.
Right.
Thanks for being with us.
Leader of UKIP in Scotland.
In Scotland. From Brussels is Charles Tannock, a British MEP, Conservative Party. You will be also joined by Joe Twyman, who's in London, Head of Political and Social Research for a YouGov Research and Polling Institute. So we'll be looking to hear your views in just a moment. Just before we get our guests to weigh in on what David Cameron's path to a yes vote or an in vote might be, let's get a recap of what the British Prime Minister said today in front of lawmakers at the House of Commons.
A clash of Conservatives in the House of Commons. A rare occasion where David Cameron faced opposition from within his own ranks as he calls for Britain to stay in the European Union.
In-out referendum on Thursday, the 23rd of June. We are a great country, and whatever choice we make, we will still be great. But I believe the choice is between being an even greater Britain inside a reformed EU or a great leap into the unknown.
The Prime Minister's leadership is contested, with several key ministers campaigning for a Brexit. London Mayor Boris Johnson, who's tipped to take over from Cameron when he steps down, also wants out. So the British Prime Minister defended the concessions he got from the other EU member states.
In exactly what way this deal returns sovereignty over any field of lawmaking to these Houses of Parliament?
This deal brings back some welfare powers, it brings back some immigration powers, it brings back some bailout powers, but more than that, because it carves us forever out of ever closer union, it means that the ratchet of the European Court taking power away from this country cannot happen in future. And to those
With 4 months to go before the referendum, online surveys tend to find more Eurosceptics, while those conducted by phone show that a majority of Britons want to stay in Europe. But it appears large numbers of voters remain undecided ahead of June's crucial ballot.
Let me first go to London, where Joe Twyman is standing by, head of the Political and Social Research Department for YouGov. Mr. Twyman, give us a sense of just how deep the divisions are within the British Conservative Party.
Oh, well, they're extraordinarily deep, and this is true for the parliamentary party, but it's also true for the membership. If you look at the big hitters in the party, you see people like Michael Gove and Boris Johnson coming out in favour of leaving. In contrast to that, you have the Home Secretary, Theresa May, the Chancellor, George Osborne, and the Prime Minister himself, David Cameron, all saying they want to stay. And these divisions are long-lasting, going back 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And they're also played out in the membership, which is broadly in favour of, but by no means overwhelmingly so. And in fact, the largest group of people who say they don't know come from the Conservative Party.
And Charles Tannock in Brussels, MEP, member of the Conservative Party. Are you concerned over the divisions? Are you concerned that this could weaken the party long term?
Results are known on the 24th of June, that the party will come back together and this division will cease to be a problem. But clearly today we saw the Cameron magic in the House of Commons, where he really was a star. On every point he was able to give very succinct, very cogent answers, Boris Johnson, who made his debut as the de facto leader of the Out campaign, or self-appointed, clearly fluffed it. He talked about abstract concepts of 19th century sovereignty, a lot of nostalgia and emotion for the past. But frankly, I mean, Boris Johnson himself has a slight problem. His own personal sovereignty, he had to pay taxes as a US citizen last year on a gain he made in the United Kingdom. So this idea of absolute sovereignty doesn't even apply to Boris with his tax returns. No, absolute sovereignty is very much the emotional, nostalgic thing of many of the Eurosceptics. The truth of the matter is that we need to pool a little bit of our sovereignty in order to have more prosperity, better security, and some kind of vision for the future for our country. And today I was really reassured by the leadership skills of our Prime Minister, who's battled so hard to get the deal. And today he managed to get that message across in the British Parliament, and he will start campaigning very, very actively across the country. So I'm pretty confident that many of those don't knows, that middle 15–20%, will not take the leap into the dark. They will stay with what is safe and what they know best after 45 years of membership of the European Union. And we are now in a different accommodation with the European Union. We have got significant reforms, and the reform process won't stop after we stay. So I'm very confident of victory. I don't take the view that the momentum is behind Brexit after the announcement by Boris Johnson yesterday. I think the facts and figures are a no-brainer to stay, both in terms of trade, in terms of the economy, in terms of security for our citizens, and our role in the world in foreign policy. So I felt very good after today's debate led by the Prime Minister in the House of Commons.
But Mr. Tannock, it's one thing for you to feel that the arguments were well laid out by the British Prime Minister in favor of Britain staying in the EU. It's quite another thing for the British domestic audience to agree with you and to actually buy into those arguments. What do you think David Cameron has to say to Britons over the next 4 months?
Well, he just has to state the facts as they are, that basically we do have a new arrangement. Significant advantages have now been got from our EU partners, particularly in the issue of graduating the rights to in-work benefits, the issue of red cards for national parliaments, the issue of having a special status for the United Kingdom and ending this aspiration of ever closer political union, having more done on the competition agenda, protecting the sterling area against caucusing by the Eurozone in the banking union. All these things come together to a very useful and powerful package. David Cameron, in 2013, after the Bloomberg speech, he never promised that there would be ludicrous things like a veto for the national UK Parliament on all EU legislation, because that would make the single market completely unworkable. We know we have to pool a certain amount of sovereignty in certain areas, but we're also pooling the sovereignty of France and Spain and Germany. They're all losing a bit of their sovereignty into a common legislative framework. So I'm very happy with what the deal that was struck after enormous work by Cameron and his team, and I'm very happy to basically take the gloves off, take on members of my own party who are fighting for Brexit, take on UKIP in particular, particularly on the issue of the EU migration. EU migration, by and large, has been a positive factor for the British economy.
All right, Charles Tannock, just a moment. Let's do just that and take the gloves off, and let me bring in David Coburn, British MEP and a member of the UKIP party. Is there anything, Mr. Coburn, at this stage that David Cameron could say over the next 4 months, could say or do that would significantly change your mind and make you want to stay within the EU?
Well, let's start off by saying Charles Tannock should spend more time in Great Britain, less time in Brussels. He might be more in touch with the people of this country. And also, I'd remind you that he pays taxes in Brussels as well. So even Boris does, so does he. Anyway, no, there's not...
And so do you,
I
perhaps,
pay UK
Mr.
taxes. I pay all my taxes in the UK.
Well, no, don't you have to pay some Belgian taxes? I thought you did. Anyway, whatever.
No,
all I can say is that...
I don't know about you. I pay UK income tax on all my salary. And you're the same as far as I know.
Well, may I just say that, well, let's just say that this, very simple. Cameron asked for nothing, and he got precisely that. He got everything he asked for, nothing at all. We want sovereignty back in Great Britain, as do the vast majority of British subjects. They want their sovereignty back. They want to decide who comes into their country. They want to decide who governs their country. And for example, in Scotland, we'd very much like control over our fishing and our agriculture returned to Scotland. But the Scottish National Party spent a great deal of time saying how much power they wanted to come to Scotland. Well, quite frankly, the best way of doing that is for every Scot, every man, jack, woman, whatever, everyone in Scotland to vote to get out of the European Union. We'll have plenty of power returned directly to Scotland in terms of our fishing, agriculture, power, industry, everything. Why
Mr.
do
Coburn,
we want to have a country?
let me just...
So the Scottish farmers will be competing against the English farmers in terms of subsidies within one unitary state.
Certainly
that is a really
not,
clever
Charles, and you know
economic
that's
model.
nonsense. Charles,
That's a very
you know,
clever
it'll be exactly
model
the
that
same
you'd
as
be
it is
giving
now. We will be taking...
independent
Charles,
powers on
nonsense.
agricultural subsidy to the Scottish farmers from Edinburgh.
Nonsense,
that makes
Charles.
absolutely no sense
Spend
to any
more
farmer
time
anywhere.
in Great Britain and less time in Brussels. You obviously are out of touch
Can I
with
just
your
remind you
electorate.
that I was in Great Britain 3 hours ago, and I will be there on Thursday again.
Well, I'm in
and
Great
I
Britain
spend
right
more
now,
time
Charles.
In
I'm in
Great Britain than I
Edinburgh.
do here.
Well, surely it
Right,
doesn't
well,
boil
fine.
down to who's in
I
Britain.
have a
in Great
committee
Britain
meeting.
when.
I have a committee meeting tomorrow morning to vote on things. I don't know about you,
Jolly
but I
good.
actually do. I was elected to legislate in the European Parliament.
I was elected to get us out of the European Parliament, and I'm doing my level best to do it. All I can say is the Conservative Party are very split on this, and the Prime Minister said he made a deal. Well, Boris Johnson doesn't agree with him. Most of the Cabinet don't agree with him. The better part of the Cabinet are not agreeing with him. And
that
over
would be your
50%
assessment.
of
5
Conservative
Cabinet
members
members
of
don't.
Well,
Parliament.
that again. I have to say that is
over
factually
50% of
incorrect. As far
of
as I
the-
know, there are only
Well,
7
over
cabinet
50% of
ministers that I'm aware have come
only
out.
50% of
I'm
Conservative
sorry, out of
members
more
of-
than 20.
All right.
members of the Conservative
You know,
Party
you just
are
made
not
that figure
in
up.
favour.
Less than half the cabinet are in favour of Brexit, and you know that, David.
Well,
I believe the number
no,
is
I
7
don't
at the
know
last
that.
count.
And all
Out
I
of
can
more
say
than
is
20
that-
cabinet
well-
ministers. I don't know how you make that the majority.
Well,
Okay, Mr.
the vast
Hold on,
majority of the
Mr.
Conservative Party
Coburn.
seems to be
If I could,
against it
if I
too.
could get both of you, Mr. Coburn, Mr. Tannock, to just talk one at a time. Mr. Coburn, I'd like to first of all on this the number of ministers. Let's get this straight. It's 5 ministers. So not a majority of the cabinet. I think we can all agree on that being
Well, the better part of
factually
it,
accurate.
let's say, the better members of the cabinet seems to be
Well, can I just take this?
our side of it.
It's interesting that
But,
the Prime
may I just say
Minister,
very
the Prime
importantly
Minister, the
that,
Foreign Secretary, the Defence Secretary, and the Home Secretary, and the Chancellor are all
The
who are
Justice
the great
Secretary seems
officers
to
of
disagree
state,
with
as they
you.
are known traditionally. They are all in
and the
favour
Justice
of
Secretary
remaining.
is
The
not?
great officers of state.
Wow.
Sorry?
Mr. Coburn,
well.
let's
The great
get back to
officers
this
of state
issue of
are all in
sovereignty.
favour of
Let's
staying.
put it this way. 50%, over 50% of the Conservative members of Parliament are opposed to the European Union, as a vast majority, I'd say 70% of the members of the Conservative Party. I also point out that even in the SNP, you'll find that the leadership, got people like Nicola Sturgeon and Alex Salmond. They want to stroll the corridors of power with Frau Merkel and President Hollande. But the ordinary people in the Scottish National Party, ordinary people, do not necessarily want to do that. They are more interested in having powers brought back to Scotland. The Scottish National Party is not a nationalist party. UKIP are a patriotic party. We want to bring as much power back to Scotland as possible and to Westminster. We want to rule by Westminster and Holyrood, not by Brussels.
All right,
And
so
that is
Mr.
the only
Coburn, I
honourable
need some
position to take.
details from you on precisely this and on the sovereignty issue. David Cameron has secured a guarantee from the European Union that European treaties will be rewritten in a way that's more favorable to British sovereignty the next time that treaties are actually amended. Why is this of no satisfaction to you?
No, he hasn't. He hasn't. Of course he hasn't. This has still got to be agreed by the European Parliament. They can change it if they like. This is nonsense. The European Union is the minute Britain votes to stay within the European Union, I will guarantee that what will happen, all the skeletons will come out of the closet and the European Union will go pell-mell for as all being in the
David
Euro
Coburn also,
and all sorts of
David,
other
David
things.
Coburn
So
and his party.
let's be honest about
David
it.
Coburn
We
and his
all know
party.
fine well what's going to happen.
Charles Tannock.
European Union, you
David,
vote and vote
your
and vote
party
until you get
also
it the way they want
guaranteed
it
that
to be.
your party also guaranteed, David, there'd never be a referendum on EU membership in the first place. So all your so-called guarantees mean nothing when it comes
There
to
would not be a referendum on the European Union
David Cameron
if it wasn't for Nigel
delivered
Farage.
for a referendum on Scotland and on the European Union. And
there
what
would
he has
be
done as
no-
a deal is in good faith, and it's absolutely clear that all those commitments made by our 27 partner states in the European member states
Cameron
will
would
be
not
delivered,
have had a
and they
referendum,
will be
Charles,
completely
unless
implemented.
Nigel
They will be
Farage
complete-
had
Okay,
pushed us
be
I'd
forward.
like
implemented.
both of you to just put
Let's
this on
be
pause
honest,
for a second.
Charles.
I'm concerned that it's difficult for viewers to follow you if you're talking at and over each other all the time. So just give me a moment and let me bring in Alexis Poulain, director of EURACT France, a keen European observer, European affairs. In your opinion, does David Cameron understand the mood of the country right now, judging by the campaign that he's starting to kick off? Is he in tune with what Britons actually think?
That's a good question. I think he's trying to get the best of both worlds by saying, I got some thing back from Brussels, and yet we will vote yes because Britain is stronger. And this leap in the unknown, as he said today, is key for the future of England. And already you see today that the sterling was attacked, and there will be some speculation of the currency of the UK. And what will be these 4 months will be just a campaign of uncertainty, because so far we got 1/4 of the population that still don't know what they will vote. If you look at the people, like we got the MEPs debating, they won't change their mind in 4 months. The question is, what will happen of the 25% of British people
Undecided.
that do not know what they will do? And what we see is that the debate so far is very technical, or gets into like, oh, we get this for the social rights, the migrant security is a key issue and will be a key issue. And we got different sounds coming from Brussels or from Westminster or wherever. But what will change for normal UK citizens? What will they be better off? Will there be more security, less security? What if the money crumble? What if the city doesn't, manage on its own? All these questions have no answers so far, and the debate is very political. With Boris Johnson jumping on it, just saying, "Hey, here's my pig's head. I will, move it and shake it and try to get the PM job sooner than later."
All right, Alexis Poulain, director of EURACT France, thank you very much. We're going to take a very short break, but we're back in just a moment with more from Edinburgh, Brussels, London, and right here in Paris.